Welcome, everyone. We're here with a brand new episode of the Business Blind Spots Exposed podcast. Hey, Mark, how you doing today?
Hey, doing great. Thank you.
Good. I'm going to talk about Mark here in a little bit. I want to get you oriented. If this is the first time joining the Business Blind Spots Exposed, gosh, that's so long. I'm going to call it BBSC for the rest of the podcast. If you're new to the BBSC, BBSC
That
is
sounds
all.
cool. My kids are teaching me all those. This is great. You definitely should do that.
uh, Yeah, the acronym is much better, much faster. So for me, this all started with a little bit of a personal journey. What I found out is that when I can't, my blind spots are the things that hurt me the most. So I started asking others for what their perspective is, and as soon as I started finding others who helped me see better and see more, my blind spots started to disappear, and all of a sudden, things got a lot easier. Things didn't surprise me as much. Business Blind Spots Exposed podcast is all about bringing the perspectives of others who have been there, done that, have seen markets, have experienced things from the outside to the inside, and what they've seen. A lot of it starts around data. A lot of it starts around businesses that have had pains or challenges, and this is all about some of those stories and how they pushed through that. I want to tell you about, before I start to tell you a little more about Mark here, I want to tell you about some of the things that are coming up. We've got some really exciting guests coming up in the next few weeks. On June 3rd, I've got Nadej, who's going to come and talk to us about the compelling numbers behind building a diverse culture. Diversity is actually a superpower for companies. She's going to talk to us about why that is. Dominic is on June 1st. Dominic is going to talk to us about taking care of your employees so they will take care of you. You do the quid pro quo and everybody wins. And that's what Dominic is going to talk to us about. On May 27th, Mike Codweiss is going to talk to us about managing employee benefits, the numbers behind the why. People do benefits, but sometimes people don't understand why they do the benefits and how you can use that as a superpower within your company. Mike's going to talk to us about that. But today we've got Mark Stewart, and the topic of our podcast today is building productivity with data from pest routes. Pest Routes is this really cool company. That's my technical way of saying it. I've really enjoyed my conversations with the team from Pest Routes, starting with Mark. Gosh, even just a few weeks ago. But even before that, from a technology point of view, just tapping into some of the data and some of the streams and what they do has been really, really cool and intuitive is what I really liked about it. So I want to tell you a little bit about Mark first. And I would love to jump in a little bit more to pest routes and some of that productivity. So Mark Stewart, title role is Key Account Executive. I feel like that undersells what you do, Mark. It seems like you do a whole heck of a
Thank
lot
you.
more than just that. 15 years of sales experience, led teams with over 100 salespeople, lots of sales knowledge and process experience. You've helped lots of pest control companies go from what I'll call it 0 to 60, or maybe 0 to 100 is probably more appropriate. They just kind of took their sales and their productivity and pushed through ceilings that they didn't even know existed sometimes before, and they've just punched right through it. Spent lots of hours just even at Pest Route trying to help and counsel and take those people, invite them to a better place, those companies and those leaders and the employees there. And what I love about this is you've done that across the country. You've got certain focus areas, but I feel like you've been there and done that for a lot of different types of companies. Did I get that all right?
That was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Definitely.
So this is an interactive dialogue. This is live. It's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, and it's also on LinkedIn. So if there's anybody who's listening, and tell us who you are, who's listening in, what role do you have in an organization, and why are you listening in? What brought you to the podcast today? Type in the chats. Would love to hear who you are or what you do. If you've got questions for Mark or something I say that makes absolutely no sense, tell me, and let's talk about it. But let's get to Mark. Pole vaulting.
Yes.
I learned a little bit about you, Mark, before the podcast, and you held the record at your school for pole vaulting. Tell me about that.
No, it was high school, so let's not go too too crazy. I wasn't that good. There probably wasn't very many pole vaulters before me, but fortunately, with pole vaulting, it's one of those things that if you just have an adventure mindset, someone asked me who wants to volunteer to learn pole vaulting. I was like, I saw it once on TV. That sounds like a lot of fun. Anything that lets me fly and have a little bit of danger. So I jumped right in, and it took me 4 years, but I got good at it.
So this is not one of those things where they say any volunteers and everyone else takes a step back and you're the guy left stepping forward.
Yeah, maybe I'm the only one that stepped forward. I don't know how that worked, because like that sounds like a lot of fun. Doing track, you're running in a circle, it gets kind of boring after a while. You're like, I want to try something else with a little bit of danger. So that's probably why I'm in sales.
So there's always a story behind things, and you've been touching lots of different companies from all across the United States, lots of different sizes. I'm going to give you I'll start out with a little bit more of what I think is a tough question for you, right?
Okay.
Draw me some parallels in terms of what you've seen in the market for pest control, kind of what's been happening, and what you learned in pole vaulting.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I think what's interesting about the pest control industry is it is very technical. Like technically, when you look at pole vaulting, anyone can just run with a big stick in their hand and try to jump over a big pit. But doing it the right way takes a lot of technique. And so I do think like the first initially when you said that, what is the examples? That's the first thing that came to my mind, because I spend hours drawing out step by step what I need to do when to pole vault correctly. So it's the exact same thing when it's not just your strength, it's not just your capabilities, it's your technical knowledge of how to do it. So I would say it's the exact same with pest control. When I visit these companies, some of them are very successful just because they're good people. They love people, they love talking to people, but they don't know the technical aspects of taking their company to the next level. And that's really where I think pest control is heading next.
Gosh, I didn't know what to expect there, so I just kind of threw that out there, hoping that I would get somewhat of a reasonable answer. I think that's a damn good answer.
Thank you. I love asking the random questions. Just spending thousands of hours, 15 years really of answering random questions has made me enjoy them more and more.
So, and here's what I'm hearing, or sort of the message that kind of came up in my head as I'm hearing that. Right, you're saying, look, pole vault a lot from the surface. It looked, when someone does pole vaulting well, someone who set a record in high school or held the record in high school, the technique you probably made it look easy for others. Everyone's like, oh, he's just holding the pole and he runs at that as fast as he can and just jumps over. Well, there's a little bit more to it than that, right?
That's
And
right.
it's about technique, it's about form, it's about speed and pace and timing, right? There's all these little nuances that make the difference between a pole vaulter who doesn't rank at all and a pole vaulter who sets the record, right?
So when I'm starting off my run in pole vaulting, I actually have an exact spot like marked out by the inch. So if I'm literally 1 inch back when I'm running down, I'm off. So like just that little bit throws off your whole execution. So it kind of is a scary thing to know and a good thing to know that even the little things matter.
So I used to run track, and I used to do the
Oh,
hurdles,
good.
and I used to do hurdles, 110 hurdles. I used to do 400, 400. I hated that race, but it was the race I was best at because I feel like you're always beaten with the ugly stick by the end of it. You just had nothing left in you, right? But
Yep.
you're right. You get down to a process and sort of this ritual in terms of what you do every single time, and you kind of walk yourself through it, envision how this is going to end every time. And if you go through that sort of that mantra, that process, that ritual, you end up doing well. So it's about the sequence of everything and how you put it together. And the parallel here is that using Pest Route software, it now gives companies the ability to go through that ritual or that mantra, or that process to get to the outcome that they want. Am I drawing the right conclusion there?
Yeah, you're spot on. I think for your listeners, it's nice to know. I don't really consider us a software. We're more of a solution. Like we're an answer to a problem that's very needed. So I like just quick few second
Yeah.
background. Like pest routes, basically does all the reporting, the dashboards for your company, what's going on in the business, where's my blind spots. Then it does all the scheduling, it does all the billing, the mobile apps, the sales apps. It helps your team basically save a lot of stress and anxiety and time. But that's kind of a background of what we do. But I end up talking about a lot more than just software when I'm talking to companies, just like this conversation.
No, I appreciate you doing that, and I realize sometimes I kind of get ahead of myself because I'm excited about all the ideas and questions in my head, and
No, this is why we got connected. Was I just found some of your videos online. I just thought, oh my goodness, this is what my customers need to hear. So it was funny when I reached out to you and just introduced myself. You were already taking care of our customers, so it just was an exciting kind of parallel. It was like what you were saying is so needed in our industry today. So it's exciting that you're already doing it.
well, I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate you reaching out. I have enjoyed all of our conversations since then and the opportunities that we have together. So we call it the Business Blind Spots Exposed, BBSE, right? Uh, and it's about helping owners, leaders, and companies find the blind spots, right? The stuff that you can't see. That if you don't have the mirrors on the car, you're going to run into the person in the lane to your right because you just didn't see it. It's in your blind
Yep.
spot. You got to have the mirrors. Talk to me about blind spots that you've seen in all the companies that you've talked to in the pest control industry. Tell me
Oh,
some of the blind spots you see.
yeah, I love it. Since I watched a lot of your podcasts, I came up with three really big ones. Obviously, there's a lot of blind spots. We could talk for probably years, but three of the big ones I really see. So, one of the customers I worked with, this was just a couple of years ago. They're in the PCT 100 list, which obviously they're a large company. They had the mindset that they are doing everything exactly right, that they're very unique, that their process is just ideal. And when I got to meet with them and chat with them, I noticed that they actually had overtime in the company. I said, why do you have overtime with your employees?
Hmm.
And they just said that that's just the normal thing. That's how we've always done it for 20, 30 years. And so I explained the reason why you have overtime is you have a process that is slowing your people down. There's no reason that your employees can't get the job done in the time of day that you have. And so that kind of opened their eyes, and we started kind of exploring. And eventually, when they switched to pest routes, they laughed because they said the first thing that disappeared was overtime. And what was crazy is when they switched to our system, they noticed that a lot of their processes that they had in place was because they were using an old or outdated system. So they needed those processes for an old system that's no longer there. So typically when people switch to us, what we've noticed is, and we have all these articles from all these companies, is they've had record years the year they switched to pest routes over and over and over again. But this company, they actually doubled their growth from the year before. But what's more impressive was they would typically have to double their staff to maintain that kind of growth. They didn't have to hire one more technician, one more office staff member. They could manage the speed of that growth with the team they had, and they decreased their expenses by 17%. And so obviously they were really, really happy with this, but that's not a unique story. But that's kind of the first one that I thought of that's over and over again is this industry as a whole. When I visit people, this company, if you come to a company at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, people are working. People are trying to catch up. And in most pest routes organizations, obviously I can't say everyone, I'm there visiting them at 4:30, and it's a ghost town in the office. And usually the back when we could visit companies, that was a nice thing. But that's probably the first blind spot that I see is people think overtime is a norm, and it doesn't have to be.
So I like to try to engage with some of our the people who are on here. I would love to just say Y or N, yes or no. Do you have overtime in your pest control company? I'm just kind of curious based on the number of people that are listening in. Just type it into the comments, yes or no. So, but what I'm hearing from you right here are two things that are popping up in my head. First of all, PCT 100 list, right? So this is a good, successful company. They've been doing
Yep.
this for a long time. They've got good processes. kind of. Right?
Well,
There are areas
that's
where
part of the thing that I learned early on is I love solving problems. That's kind of what I've done for 15 years is I love to come in and say, here's where you can improve. And then I discovered really quickly that insulted people because they have a mindset that and I don't know why this is, but I am perfect. I have figured this out. And the reason is they've built an amazing company. So like, of course you're doing a great job. But some of them I've discovered to tread a little bit lightly when I go around these subjects. But what they did helped them get to this space. But the where I see the most successful people is open to just hearing new ideas.
Yeah, I'm telling you, one day I'm just going to start writing down all the quotes that go through my head 10,000 times a day. And the one that popped into my head as soon as you said that is what got you here today is not going to get you to tomorrow. Right. Uh,
Absolutely.
you've learned, you've gone through all the trials and tribulations, and it's probably a lot of them, right? It's been a pain in the ass to get to today. Right. But
Yeah,
if you want to get to tomorrow, something's got to change. Right.
absolutely.
I talked to a customer a number of years ago, and they said, "Hey, look, we're just trying to, they were at about 3.1 million in revenue. They were very proud of it." I say, "Yeah, that's good. That's a good, solid business, right?" People, they had good, solid employees. The retention rates were good. They said, "We just want to get to 5 million." I said, "And so what are you changing to get to 5 million?" They're like, "What do you mean changing?" It's like, well, I mean, the processes that you have in place today to get to 3.1 million, it took you a long time to get to that. But if you're going to go to the next level, uh, the skills that you use to be on the junior varsity pole vaulting team is not what gets you to the varsity pole vaulting team, right? Something's got
Absolutely.
to change. So the other thing that I heard is productivity lift, right? So the overtime went. So big companies are not immune to getting some changes in optimizations and process. Big and small companies can do that by using pest routes, right? There are
Yes.
some low hanging fruit wins that they can get there. What I heard here also is that this idea of productivity, there was a productivity lift that occurred, as in the case of eliminating overtime. I gotta imagine some of the stories behind that too is that the employee satisfaction, employee retention probably maybe have stepped up a notch or two because I'm not working overtime now, but things are actually better. Does that resonate at all?
Absolutely. There was a Forbes that you just saying that reminded me of a Forbes article I just read that for some reason right now, 1/3 of millennials are considering leaving their work environment. And they're not necessarily telling the employees, the employer, I mean. So, and part of that really does come from this is it's not necessarily some people say, "Oh, I like overtime because I get paid more." That's nice up to a point, but I'll talk about some other blind spots that kind of highlight a little bit more. But you're absolutely right. When you take away that time and save it from the employees, they're going to not just like you more, but they're going to be more productive. It's like proven over and over and over again.
Yeah, gosh, I feel like this is a 2 or 3 beer conversation here, just talking about how you engage with employees and make them feel more valued and part of something and do it on sort of their terms. And I think this 1/3, 33% of your millennials are thinking about leaving you right now. That's a big number. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a surprise. I don't think anyone wants. So that's a really interesting component there.
And in
Blind
our
spot.
industry, it is
Go
hard
ahead.
to find millennials to do our industry. So
Yeah.
this is kind of part of the problem why millennials aren't going into our industry. Probably one of many. But you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. This is a overtime is a big blind spot that people need to address.
Number two, give me the second one. Drop some more knowledge on me.
Yeah, this one's probably my favorite because I hear it over and over and over again. But one of my larger customers, every time I call them, I'm too busy. I'm too busy right now. I'm too busy right now. I'm too busy right now. And it's funny because eventually, when I finally get in the door, because one thing I think people like about me is I'm not, hey, we have to talk right now. Like, whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here. And so it took a little bit to get this company over. But finally, when they decided to make the switch, what was interesting was they gave me a quote. I actually put it on the back of my business card a long time ago, but it basically said, the only mistake we made is not switching to pest routes sooner. Like it's helped like in every aspect of our business, from billing, from scheduling. So we basically cut their scheduling time in half. We cut their billing time that they were spending in half. Their tech service 1 to 2 more customers a day. So that was just a whole nother unique story. But I think the biggest mindset is I'm so busy, I don't have time to look at anything new. I got to just basically keep moving forward. So I think the hard part is um, realizing that the same thing you're doing, like you said before, that's kind of what triggered this was um, I need to just work harder. That's that's my secret is everyone wants to say, all right, the answer to my problem of all this pile of work is just work harder. I just got to grind and get it done. And that's not always the answer to the solution. Sometimes the answer to the solution is having a better process, a better way of doing it. And then all of a sudden you're going to see a lot more results in less time. But that's, I think, the biggest thing is everyone thinks, oh, I'm busy. That's just our industry. I have no time to talk to anybody except for service customers. And then that's where I think a huge blind spot that people have. It's not their fault. It's something that's always been that way, that they've been trained by their old boss or their old owner they work for said, hey, just keep working hard. And
Yeah.
that fortunately has changed with technology.
Gosh, a lot to unpack in that one, right? I mean, there's everything from about personal development and leadership and internal processes. That's all packed into that. You know, the word that two words that I have been talking about a lot in recent weeks, and someone brought this up, and as soon as they brought these two words up, and I'll tell you in a second here. As soon as they brought these two words up, it kind of just hit me like a ton of bricks. My gosh, it makes all the difference in the world. And the two words are effective and efficiency. Right? Are you being effective or are you being efficient? People who are fantastic at what they do are both very effective but also very efficient. So many people focus on just efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. Right? I got to work harder.
Yep.
But if you're spending 10 hours doing something that someone else can do in 2, well, you may be efficient, but you're not very effective, right?
100%.
And I think that's, I mean, maybe to dig into that blind spot a little bit here, there's a real treasure trove there, right? If you can start to use something like the solution set that comes along with pest routes, just like they did for this for the overtime, right? Now you start to become more effective, not just more. It's not more of the same; it's more of the better, right?
Yep. 100%. And it makes sense now that you said that to go back to pole vaulting. I feel like I can be a pole vault coach.
I'm gonna
In
have to try
college,
the pole vault up next
I
time.
did
Demonstrate.
volunteer pole vault coaching because just I don't know why I love coaching. It's just in my in my blood. But it's funny because in pole vaulting, the pole actually bends. So the whole goal is to make that pole bend, and then it skyrockets you. So literally, you just have to hold on. You don't do any work. So new people, when they're doing pole vaulting, they actually lift themselves up. So they're using their own energy, their own strength, to try to lift over the bar. And it's funny because once you learn how to use the technology, you're just holding on, and that pole is going to send you over the bar. You just have to hold on and relax. And so it's kind of the same thing. People think, oh, I've got to work hard. I've got to work hard. But if you just use the technology that's out there, you could just let it do a bulk of the work. And then you get to do the things that you enjoy doing, not the things that you have to do. But you're absolutely right.
Lots, gosh, again, so many things that are buzzing through my head here as I'm hearing you say some of this. We talked just before, sort of pre going live here. We talked about pole vaulting, obviously, which I had learned about you in the past, but then also about theater. And part of me is sitting there saying, I wonder if I should bring up theater because now he can start to tell me about theater
I
as a
knew when I
family.
told you about that, I was like, oh no, I shouldn't have said it. You know when you say something, you're like, oh, I wish I could just take that back, but
I shouldn't have told
it's
that
too
guy.
late.
All right, we'll keep it to pole vaulting for right now.
No, 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 absolutely. My family was really big into theater. My sister is an amazing actress. She got her degree in it, and she actually writes her own plays, and she's an artist, and she's fantastic. So I'm the youngest
Okay.
of 3 kids, and my brother was a big cowboy growing up. Cowboy hat, truck, the whole thing, boots. and my sister loved theater and the arts. And it's funny because my room was right in the middle of both of them, and so I think I just got a meld a molding of the two. So I'm a little bit of a mix, but back when I was younger, I actually did theater and really enjoyed it, and it probably helps a little bit with doing podcasts because this is no big deal. This is more
So
fun.
in all of that, what I heard was that if you were to have theater and cowboys get married, you get pole vaulting.
That's right. You get pole vaulting and doing pest control. So that's a good mold of the two right there.
So the blind spot number two is this idea of being too busy to do things, and where I kind of went to with that is this idea of being effective versus efficient, and that's one of the sort of the ways and solutions that comes to bear when people start looking at pest routes is they can now start to move from the too busy to, all right, what hill do we conquer next? Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. That's it. It's just a constant battle, a constant grind. They're not thinking about how can I do this better. And it's not necessarily their fault because if you've been doing it for 20, 30 years the same way, you think this is how I always got to do it. And I always like to be. I love to throw in humor. That's just my thing. And so one of my favorite customers, they told me that I said, I'm too busy. I'm doing the exact same thing I've been doing for 20 years, seeing a lot of success. So I don't need your help. I said, oh, that's fantastic. So you're driving the same truck you drove 20 years ago? And they laughed. And then they said, okay, let's talk. And then after we talked, they switched to best routes. But I always love to bring in humor every time I can. There's obviously new technology in trucks, so there's probably new technology in running your business.
So I want to get to blind spot three, but I also want to hear some more of these stories too. I think it seems like the stories are where it's really at here. So get. I think you had another blind spot that you.
Yeah,
You
one
would
more.
go ahead.
This is actually my favorite one. So this is the one that I personally get really passionate about because it's happening right now, and people are just starting to get a grasp of it. So years ago, when mostly my father and my grandfather played football, it was back then. If a kid walked up to his coach and said, "I'm thirsty," then the coach would look at them and say, "You're weak. You're not strong enough. Get out there and run faster." So that was the blind spot back then. Was dehydration was a real thing, but they weren't addressing it. And so all of a sudden they gave kids water and they performed better. Then all of a sudden they gave them Gatorade and they performed even more. So now what's happening at this very moment is employees are coming to their boss and their work and they're saying, I'm stressed. And they're having that exact same reaction that those football teams did a long time ago, saying, you're not working hard enough, toughen up. Now, most of our viewers are excellent bosses. You're not doing that. I'm just talking to the ones who aren't seeing this as a huge blind spot. Stress is the exact same thing as dehydration. So when I coach, I like to coach my son's soccer team. I've helped coach volleyball, baseball, whatever they play, I can basically help coach because I'm usually the assistant coach. I just tell them to run. I'm a track guy. I'm like, hey, my job is you need to run. But what I do during practice is I tell the team to go get a glass of water. I said, stop, go get a glass of water. So it's my job to combat stress. So combat dehydration. So right now, employers, unfortunately, are just go, 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 work, work, work. They need to realize I need to tell them to take breaks. Like one thing I love about my company is our executive got up in front of everybody and said, I've noticed that no one is taking vacation. And I get it because we're doubling, tripling in size. You guys obviously have a lot, but we need you to take vacation. We encourage you, please take a break. And then right after that call, there's a bunch of vacations popped up. But what's really important is sometimes we see stress as, oh, you just got to toughen up, because typically the owner of the company had to work through stress themselves by working harder and working through it. But that's not the same thing you're going to do to your employees. You got to really make sure that they're handling stress well, that we're helping them through it, and they know it's not their fault. Like they need to get a glass of water, they need to get Gatorade, and so we really need to see stress for a terrible thing. So most people see stress and it kind of is what it is. So when I go visit companies around the US, obviously didn't do it last year, but the many years that I've been doing this, I could tell in 10 minutes if it was a good organization or not just looking at if they're growing, but if you're walking around your work and you don't see anyone smiling ever, that is a huge problem. That is something that you need to address. And all of a sudden, when you address that stress and that anxiety, all of a sudden you're going to see the company grow like crazy. And so that's like something I get really passionate about, because usually people do their best to see stress that way. But once you really attack it and more proactive with stress, that's when people enjoy their job. You get more millennials to come work here. A lot of good things will happen.
I think that's a really, really insightful point there, and I want to dig into it. I do want to take a quick second to mention my two sponsors, because because of them I'm able to get on the air here and talk to people and let people know. We've got a company named Corralling Chaos who is a sponsor, and they do culture assessments to find alignment amongst the employees and the leadership, and that's what they do. They're offering a free assessment. So, I mean, it's almost incredibly relevant to what you're talking about here. Do your employees align with what you do, and are you all marching in the same direction? And who's feeling the stress, right? The other one is Carmo, who does a performance assessment. Where are the areas, where are the blind spots through the data that you can see, where you can improve performance, and actually everyone starts to feel a lot happier. So if you put something in the comments, we'll put you in the drawing to get one of those free assessments, either for a culture assessment or a performance assessment. Both two free offers from the sponsors. What I loved about what you were saying there last is, and I think that's a fantastic. I also coach my kids' soccer teams too. Yesterday when it was kind of hot down here in North Carolina, the kids are running around for a little bit, and they've got all running around with their masks, because that's the way the league is running, right? Mm-hmm. One of them said, "Hey, can I get some water?" And the first thought was, "Come on, let's push through this exercise." I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be fighting them the whole time, as opposed to them getting a drink of water and being back and focused again." And I think that's kind of what leads to a post I put out on LinkedIn. I call it the 3 whys, right? The first why is your personal why. Why are you here, right? You got to feel that internally. The second was the role why. Why I'm in this role. Do I care about what I'm doing each and every day that I'm getting paid for? And finally is the company why. If I don't believe in what the company is doing, then I'm not leaning in. I'm not taking care of your customers. I'm not doing a good job. I don't care about asking, how do I do a better job? I don't care about leaning into my training. I don't really care. I tell boss to go fly a kite, right? And
yeah.
And when an employee leans in and says, "Hey, I'm dehydrated," I'm stressed, and you say, "Yeah, I had to go through that too. Worked through it." Gosh, that company why and that role why, they're not aligned anymore. They don't really care, and you keep doing that over and over again. They're getting a paycheck from you, and that's all you get from them.
Yeah.
I mean, does that resonate with you? I mean,
very much. And it's funny that you say that, because another track thing that I came back to. It's funny. You know this. In when you're talking about dehydration, when you're thirsty, it's too late. You've already reached the point of dehydration. So even if you get a huge glass of water, it's going to take some time before that water actually goes through your body and hydrates you. So if you're thirsty, your body has already hit the point of, it's too late. You're dehydrated. You're not going to be at your peak performance, because your body's saying, I don't have enough water. I'm slowing down to survive. And so when someone comes up to you and says, I'm stressed, you need to realize it's not, I'm going to just say something really nice to you right now and send you on your way. It's too late. They've reached the point of, no one wants to come to you and say they're stressed. That they're reaching a point of, I'm about to walk out of this company. So that is, a huge a huge blind spot. That if someone comes up, says that stress, anxiety, you need to see it before it happens. You need to see that, hey, when I used to manage, so I was one of the managers that handled 100 salespeople. So I basically handled the new technology for the team, taught them how to sell and how. I actually will count how many times in a circle when I'm talking, how many people smile. And if no one's smiling, I know something's a problem and I need to quickly, address this. So kind of the same thing as you go out through your day. If your employees aren't smiling, if they don't look happy, that's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Gosh, so I'm hearing 3 blind spots. Overtime is a blind spot that you can eliminate. Too busy means you're not working as effectively as you can. Employee needs matter. If you're hearing about stress or people expressing stress, there's a way to build a better mousetrap that actually leads to a better place.
And I'm not painting a picture like this is everybody all the time.
Yeah.
There's obviously examples all over the place, but that's just kind of what I typically see. A nice little overview.
Yeah, no, I hope no one takes this as this is 100% everywhere in every single situation. It's varying degrees. Some places it matters a little, some places it matters a lot, right?
Right.
Walk me through a journey, right? Because I told you before, I love my stories, right? Walk me through a story of making all these changes. I gotta tell you, some of this stuff could come across as a little squishy. I don't give a shit, right? Walk me through a story of someone where they started to say this stuff doesn't really matter, and how that light bulb turned on for them after they shifted to pest route, and how the world, I'll say, the next door opened that they hadn't seen before.
Yeah. I think like one of my customers, they were fortunate. They changed to actually three other competitors before they switched to us. That probably says we're not doing that good of a job. But when they switched to us, it was just before 2020 when all the craziness hit, and I think the light bulb turned on for him when he noticed the employees were. I think what you can tell is employers want, like when I'm a coach, I want people to have fun. I want to win, but I want the kids to enjoy what they're doing, not feel like I'm just beating them down.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset of when the employees are complaining less, they're coming to me with less complaints. They're taking less sick days. They're enjoying what they're doing. And when they're talking to their customers, they're enjoying talking to customers, even the hard ones. So I think that's when the light bulb turns on. Like when I walk into other companies, typically other capabilities aren't live. They don't talk to each other at the same time. So they have to verbally communicate with each other, almost like yell at each other. So don't take the 2:00 time slot. I'm giving it to Ryan Matlock. And in our software, there's no yelling. You just click it and it just let the whole team know 2:00 is not available for anybody else. And so what they notice is the anxiety in the office going way down, and they feel it. Like you can almost feel the stress going away for everyone, even executives. So one owner of the company, he said the light bulb turned on for me because when I came in after we made the full switch to pest routes, so we started using it for a while. My role of helping solve problems, helping people know how to use the capabilities, was gone. So I've actually had many owners step away from the business, more or less retire, and not even come into the office anymore because they said now my role of managing people and keeping them motivated and solving problems, a lot of that goes away. And so I think that's when the light bulb comes on, is just seeing it on people's faces. And so it's funny when I talk to actual customers one-on-one, I downplay all this. I don't tell all the stories because sometimes it does seem a little too good. But what's funny is when we go to a trade show, that's when it's easy. I was sitting there at a trade show with a customer who was giving me a lot of trouble. He's like, I don't believe any of the stories you're saying, like all that. So a random person walked by and they said, hey, I use pest routes. And he started to walk off and the guy grabbed him. He goes, tell me about it. And he goes, it's amazing. It's the best thing you've ever seen. So then they went on, he left. And then he comes back to me and goes, well, that was lucky. I said, no, if you meet a Pest Routes customer, you meet a happy customer. And he thought that was funny. But long story short, I think no company's perfect. We're not perfect. Like no software is perfect. But what our customers, I think, really strive on is we tell them the truth. We say what we have and what we don't have. And when they come on with us, they can tell we care about them. They actually think we're a really small company. So people think there's like 5 of us here because when they call and they talk to support, they're friendly and nice on the phone. And one time, a customer of mine visited our office back when we were all in one office, and all they did was hover over the support team. Just watched him for like 10 minutes. I was like, "What are you guys doing?" And he goes, "This person's watching YouTube. This person's playing a game on his computer, and this person, no phone is ringing." he's like, because I want to sign up right now. So, but yeah, long story short, the good news is we just have a good reputation, and that's kind of why I personally fell in love with this company. Was customers all have my cell phone and they call me and make fun of my favorite sports team, and so long story short, we do what we say. So it's a very nice company to be part of.
So I'm listening to this and kind of trying to, as I always do, I'm trying to distill the message. And for my company, I talk about we just been talking to people about it and tried to distill it into what is that we do. We increase the leadership quotient, right? That's what we do as a company, right? We make you better leaders. And so as I'm hearing you guys, what I'm hearing is you guys are all about the light bulb moment when the person realizes, oh, this is the way it's supposed to work, right?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
It seems to me
That's it. You're right.
it's the light bulb when they go, oh, right? And they
Absolutely.
said, this is what I started 20 years ago trying to get to. This is why I wanted to be a pest control operator, because I wanted to be able to control my own destiny. I wanted to be able to go to my kids' soccer games or football games or ballet or pole vaulting competitions, whatever else it was, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be there, but I haven't been able to do that because I've been too busy, right? My employees feel stress and they're working overtime all the time. I'm not getting to those things, honey. I'm not making it to another one, right? But when the light bulb goes off, they go, oh, I got nothing to do. I'm going to that. I'm going to my the regional track meet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's the light bulb moment that they get.
Absolutely. It's funny because when I started this company a long time ago, I was fortunate to be one of the first employees here at the company. So I got to see it do all this growth. But so I had a job offer at a Fortune 500 company, one of the largest software companies in the country, and I'm very familiar with them and had it all kind of lined up. And then the founder of the company called me and said, "Do you want to come in for an interview?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not? Have another option." And so I sat there, and my light bulb moment was when he showed me the demo. I was like, "That it's really that easy?" Because my demos in the past were like 4 or 5 hours. Just to show the software it's that complex. And here, and like, if I really want to do it quick in 30 minutes, I showed you the whole thing, and it just pauses like, that is beautiful. And so that, I think, is the light bulb moment, is just seeing it and like, oh my goodness, what I'm doing is 20 steps. This is 2 steps. So that, I think, is a good light bulb moment for me personally.
Mm-hmm. So I've been in and around software for most of my life. It's what's paid most of my bills, the bills that I do choose to pay. And the funny thing is that I've seen in what I've seen of software, right? The philosophy matters a lot, right? I mean, I think what I heard a little bit from you right there, if I read between the lines, is just the simplicity. There are a lot of companies in this that provide software or solution in the pest control market. Talk to me about the philosophy of Pest Routes and help me set the record straight a little bit as to what is it that you guys do that the next 3 guys don't, or they don't even think about it. They just think about it differently.
Yeah, I do think that's a great question. For our philosophy, I think we're very fortunate because most people in our space, for some reason, pest control is becoming extremely popular. Like, not just other pest control companies, but banks and big money is starting to figure out that pest control is a very, very good industry to be in. So to answer your question, a lot of software companies are trying to jump into the space. So I think some people's philosophy is they are a technology company, and pest control is going to be just a flip of the switch. You know, we make software for the auto industry, we make software for whatever it might be, and pest control is just going to be an easy transition. And I've had customers actually spend millions of dollars, and this is their words, not mine. I had two customers that spend over $1 million developing custom software, and they trashed it and went with Pest Routes because we actually had more capabilities than what they had with all their custom software and large companies. So our perspective, what's unique is the other group of people that come in are pest control owners who say, I can just hire some developers and do this myself. But what's crazy is developers lie. So they will tell you they can move the moon closer for you and do it for half the cost and half the time, and it's always a lie. Like I haven't seen a company yet that it's worked out for, but I haven't seen every company. But the companies that I've seen, they always tell me the same thing. I have a beautiful software. It's amazing. I made it myself. And then all of a sudden I show them mine. And we look at theirs and they're like, oh, that's nowhere close. So the reason is we interview about 100 developers to hire one, because our CTO, he used to manage a team of 100 different developers. So he's a genius. And usually I keep him hidden, but some customers get to see him. They're like, oh my goodness, they thought I was the one making this software so so great. No, it's our CTO and great developers. But what he basically has done is he examines the developers. He actually has them go through a test, and if they don't pass the test, then obviously they don't move forward. And if they do pass the test, it's how they did it, how they went about doing the test. So it's funny. I had a large customer whose son wanted to come work with us, and I tried to push it, and my CTO said he passed it. And I go, oh, great, we can hire him. And he said, but he didn't do it the right way. And he's like, this is my baby. I'm sorry, we're not doing it. So I do think we're very fortunate that our founder actually worked in the pest control industry for 5 years, and he was actually going to go work at another software company and do his own thing outside of pest control, which fortunately for him is he made a sales application that he sold to 40 pest control companies. And those 40 companies basically begged him to make a software. So that's what actually turned into us. So I would say our perspective is unique because we actually know the industry and we know the technology. So we really care about our industry. But most of our competitors, their mindset is a technical standpoint. They'll add a button on whatever customer asks them to put a button there. And we think, okay, wait a second. You want a button here, but the way to do it, the right way to do it, or I shouldn't say the right way to do it, the way Pest Routes does it is the button is here on the left side. So we're not going to add two buttons to do the exact same thing on the same page. So our mindset really is taking care of the customer and keeping it simple. Like we have customers that are, $100 million, $200 million companies and up. But again, what's really nice about us is we think, how can we keep this software simple, but still do all the big things that they need? So I think that's kind of been our driving factors, knowing the industry and the technology and keeping it simple.
It's lots of stuff to unpack there as well, right? In terms of markets, HVAC and landscaping are much larger markets. I think number of HVAC companies in the United States is like 99,000. Landscaping companies is like 87,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pest control is like depending on who you ask, between 15 and 19, right? But that's grown from 12 to 14, 5 years ago, right? It's growing very quickly, as you say. Our mutual friend Edmund Mackey told me, he said, as a company, 1 out of every 5 households has pest control services of any sort, right? So he said,
Yep.
there's literally lots of green field out there, right? In terms of
Absolutely.
opportunities. And I think that's why so many people are starting to see that. There's a huge market to go after. But coming to the philosophy, what I think I'm hearing you say a little bit of And I've worked so much in software, and I've had plenty of people come to me and say, "Oh, I can do that to myself." I was like, "Have at it," and then I'll charge you twice as much to do the same, right?
Yep.
Because you'll screw it up. You don't just jump in to become a pest control operator because you read a book, right? It takes time, years, experience, as well as technical knowledge. And what I'm hearing here about Pest Routes compared to some of the other companies that are in the industry, they've kind of taken a one size fits all approach to things. Hey, look, and there's a time and a place for that, right? If that's not what matters to you as in custom fit, I mean, some people want to go buy the Hugo Boss suit, some people want to go buy, off the rack somewhere else. There's a time and place for both, right? If they want to
Absolutely.
find something that's going to make them look fantastic, it might be worth the money to go spend $1,800 on that Hugo Boss. It's because it's not about the price; it's about the way you present yourself, right?
Right.
So, I think what I'm hearing from you is if you want to step up a level, that's where Pest Routes is something. Or if you have dreams and aspirations of stepping up a level and continuing to grow, building less stress in your employees, and all these other things that we've talked about, Pest Routes might be the place to start pulling the thread. Did I get that right?
That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much. It's very true.
Um, where do people get stuck in the and I want to be cognizant of time. I've got us just a couple more minutes here, but doing all this sounds fantastic, right? In theory, hey, let's draw this all up on whiteboards. Hey, we're gonna kumbaya, we're gonna change the world. No employee stress or any of that stuff, right? Where do people
Yeah.
get stuck in the process? What is the part that they struggle with most in going from where they are to making a transition to Pest Routes? Where's
Yeah.
the friction
So,
there?
I definitely, um, changing technologies is a big shift. So regardless what you're doing, like if you're driving that old pickup truck, for the last 20 years and you get a brand new uh, Ford F-150 and you have a key and you're like, where do I put this key? Well, no, it's a button now. What do I do to, why is my seat getting warm? So like there's going to be a lot of different, there's a lot of differences in what's going on. So that's probably the biggest thing. So what we learned years ago was in the past, other companies would kind of hand you the software and say, good luck, call support if you need us. And so we made a huge investment in an implementation team. So these people are experts at certain competitors. So they know their language, they know a lot more about how to help the transition. So what we do is we make a sandbox and that company will learn from that sandbox and play with it. And we've learned a lot of things over the years. You learn through doing. So what we learned is we give companies small little pieces at a time. Hey, today, this hour, we're going to learn this one thing. And then before we meet again here in a few days, we want you to do X, Y, and Z. And so then we come up a few days, they've done X, Y, and Z. We take the next step and the next step, the next step. So I would say the biggest hangup is learning a new technology. Even if it's better, even if it's nicer, even if it's great, it's still going to take a little bit of a change because old processes are going away. People are going to have to learn new software. And typically we're working with older people that have been using paper or maybe using an older software, or maybe they transitioned to a software company that lied to them. So there's a lot of companies that say, hey, we can do everything and it's going to be wonderful. And then all of a sudden they get into it and they're like, this is not wonderful. And so when they're transitioning to us, there's a little bit of fear there. But fortunately for us, we keep our customers extremely happy and they stay with us a long time. But I would say that's the number one hang up to answer your question is helping them in that transition, change, basically take off the hat and put on the Pest Routes hat. And so what we do is we really decided we take our time. We don't charge people if they take twice as long as everybody else to learn it. Some people do it extremely quickly. Some people take their time. They're going through during the summer. They're transitioning, so maybe they're just a little bit more busy. But what's nice is we just take our time. They learn it whenever they learn it, and they decide. They actually tell us when they're ready to flip the switch and use it for real. So it's a really nice transition, regardless what time of year you're doing it. But I would say that's the number one thing, and we take it extremely seriously because the number one thing people usually like about us is that transition. Because handling your data, handling all your history, that is very important stuff, and our competitors aren't very, very good at it. So fortunately for us, We take that very seriously, and we have a lot of developers that take care of that now. Right now, we have over 50, I think, 60 developers, something around there. We have over 200 employees at the company. So what's nice is we're actually looking to almost double our staff again with our growth. But to answer your question, that's it. Transitioning is the hard part, but we have a team that their one job is to make sure that goes smoothly.
So I read a Harvard Business Review article a couple of years ago, and it talked about customer service and what creates the greatest customer loyalty. And they surveyed 75,000 interactions, including chats and text messages and emails and phone calls and all that kind of stuff, right? And they asked the top 100 companies, the directors of VPs of customer service, how do you keep customers loyal through the customer service process or the customer experience? And 79 of them said you exceed expectations. And I got to tell you, that was my answer too. Exceed expectations. Or at least I thought that was the right answer. And the author of the article just says that's complete and utter BS. He's like, that makes no sense whatsoever, because your customer has no idea what to expect. How can you exceed their expectations? And what I'm hearing from you here is, so the right answer is make it easy, right? So what you're doing is you're saying, look, if you want to go at light speed or you want to take baby steps, doesn't matter. Let's take it in small bite-sized chunks. You define bite-size, and we'll walk you down that path. That's what I'm hearing. And
Absolutely.
you set it up in a way such that they can start to swallow the pills, swallow the spoonfuls, or whatever you want to call it,
with a little bit of sugar.
With a little bit of sugar. Yeah, that's very cool. We have just a couple more minutes here. Tell me, if somebody wanted to get started on pest routes, give me 1, 2, maybe 3 steps in terms of what they should do to get started.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I would definitely say go to our website, reach out to us, request a demonstration. You can also contact me directly. This link will have a link for my information if you would like to reach out to me personally. So I'll be happy to do that as well. But I think the biggest thing is people think if I'm going to talk to pest routes, I have to be open to switching. And that's not the case at all. It is the blind spots. Sometimes I'm talking to companies just about the industry as a whole, how to help them retain people. And that's why I'm so interested in you, because I get that question all the time. So I like to help them, push them to the right direction of someone that can help them more than just me. But I would say reach out to me and don't have the indication that, oh, I have to switch now, but just have an open mind of seeing what else might be out there. And that's usually how the first step is why are people so excited about pest routes? Because most people think they're too big, or they have it all figured out, they have it dialed in. But if you check out pest routes, you're going to be surprised.
So, gosh, coming back full circle here, I mean, business blind spots exposed is all about, changing your perspective, right? You look at it from a different perspective. And I think that's what I just heard from you. Don't come here thinking that you got to make a change. Come here with the idea that you can level up your change or shift your perspective, and at least you make a better decision. Hey, I'm perfectly fine where I am. Or hold on a second, there's something here I've never seen before, right? And I'll attest to the fact that I've never had a conversation with you that hasn't been less than fun. So I got to imagine every conversation that you have with potential people about how pest routes can help could be a great conversation.
Thank you so much. You too. Absolutely.
Well, so look, we're at the end of our time. Anybody who's been listening in, it seems like been a quiet bunch today. If you still are interested in getting the special offers from our sponsors, either a performance assessment of employees or the culture assessment, type your name into the chat, and we'll reach out to you and get you entered into that whole process. So thank you for listening, and also thank you for listening in. Mark, this has been educational for me. I always learn something when I'm talking to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time too. This was a lot of fun.